Sunshine's Corner, being brought to you by Quint and Richie Studer.
And it is a beautiful Friday morning. You know what I always say? It's Friday. It's Friday. We made it through another work week. And listen, you've stepped into the place that you need to be again today. And that is Sunshine's Corner. I refresh your memory because this is the place where you get all the information that you need. This is the place where you can always have that conversation that you may think that's difficult, but you can feel safe doing it right here. I encourage you to be a part of the show. I ask of you to tell somebody when you want to know what's happening in and around the Gulf Coast. I guarantee you'll find it all here. And today it is no different because we are going to be talking with the Supervisor of Election, Mr. Robert Bender, because my dear friends, we are on the countdown. I mean, it is on the countdown now, Robert. Good morning, Robert.
Morning, Sunshine. Morning. Yeah, we're 46 days or so away from the general election, but who's counting, right?
And counting. Yeah. I mean, but I can't believe it. You know, when you were here the last time, we were up talking about, it was 80, 70 something, right? And now, it's right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
And that's why I wanted to have you in today, because of the fact that I don't want people to get so relaxed. I want to talk to the community so that you don't get relaxed, because this is utterly important that everybody cast their vote. Everybody cast their vote. Make sure you got everything in order. Don't assume. You know what assumptions will do.
Yeah, we actually sent out our military overseas voter ballots yesterday. So those were in the mail. So we now have live ballots for the general November 5th election out. And we also, military members can also get it, people can get them emailed. So we had a couple hundred email ballots go out yesterday as well. They'll return them to us. They can print it out and mail it back. And so we have ballots out right now, and we're going to start getting ready to send all those other people that have requested a vote by mail. We call them domestic. All the local people that want to vote by mail, we'll start inserting those into the packets that we send out, and hopefully the first day I can send that is next Thursday. So we have a week period to get about 25,000 of those out. Oh. So between now and whenever we mail them, we're going to be putting in about 25,000 packets together.
25,000, that's a lot of packets going on. And this had not even crossed my mind when you said you mailed it off to the military for people with, so they can vote as well. Because
of course,
that thing had really, I had lost thought of that.
It is, and so we actually have one of the, I haven't been able to verify this, but I've been told, we have one of the largest military and overseas populations of any county in the country. So, I think we sent over 3,200 ballots yesterday. Some places in Florida will send 150. So it just shows how strong our military is here.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, this is a military town, right? So therefore, we can expect a little bit there. But Robert, let's roll back a little bit. Let's recap. Sure. Let's roll back to August.
Okay.
Let's talk about the primaries, okay? Because I think that's so important that we keep that top of mind, ladies and gentlemen, that it is important for those who voted and for those who didn't think it was so important. Let's talk about that, because you were telling me that the numbers were not as great.
We did. The numbers were a little bit less about 5% less of voter turnout than where they were 2 years ago. It was a slow start to the day. About 4 o'clock, you could see that people were getting off work and headed to the polls, and really we had a couple extra thousand people there at the very end.
Okay.
So that was good to see. Of course, we're expecting and hoping for a much higher turnout. At least mid-70s. If we could get to 80%, that would be great to have everybody come out and vote on November 5th. But yeah, overall, across the state, it was a very low turnout for the primary. So, and again, some people, we had one lady call our office and goes, "I don't vote in primaries." She goes, we said, "Well, you asked to receive a ballot for every election." Well, yeah. Well, that's one of the elections, And so, again, that's how you still get your voice to be heard.
Exactly.
And who may be representing you. It's not just the final matchup. And there were a number of people that ended up getting elected in the August primary. We had a school board race in District 5 where one candidate, similar to what D.C. Reeves did 2 years ago, received more than 50% of the vote, and so that race is over.
Right. Oh, wow.
So when you have that nonpartisan, if one candidate gets more than 50% plus one of the vote in the primary, then he's won the majority. So he doesn't have to face off.
No face off of that person.
No. But in the District 4 school board race, one candidate did not receive more than 50% of the vote, and so we do have a runoff between the top two candidates of the District 4 school board race.
And you know what, you've educated me on so many things that I'm learning, right? Since we've had our conversations back here since we started several months back. But I want to go to this as well. We were talking about the vibe. I mean, you could just feel the difference, and I don't know why. But I feel a difference when it comes to this upcoming election. I don't know why, but it's something more positive that I see.
Right.
Do you get that vibe any kind of way? Because I know you're there and you get all kinds of people from every walk of life.
We do. We're still seeing a lot of vote by mail requests coming in, which is again, good to see. I'd say we're probably getting 50 a day right now. So to see it.
50 a day?
50 a day. And also registrations. We're seeing a lot of registrations. So let me start off with registration.
There you go.
So
there you go.
We talked about if you're not registered to vote yet, October 7th is the deadline to get that in. You have to register by October 7th to be eligible for the November 5th general election. And what that is, that's a state statute that says that the books close on that day. That gives us time to make sure everyone gets registered and everything. That when you get to the polls, you're all set. So October 7th is the last day to register. We have a vote by mail deadline is October 24th.
Right.
We have the dates on the screen right now.
Right.
So our early voting, if you remember, we only early voted for 8 days in the primary. That's statutory minimum that we've seen that's sufficient. But for the general election, we go out to 13 days.
Oh, wow.
And we also expand the hours. So it'll be October 21st to November 2nd, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day, including Sunday. So those 13 days from Monday to the following Saturday, we will have early voting, 10 locations throughout the county.
7 to 7.
7 to 7. My poll workers aren't happy with me. But again, this is how we make sure that everybody has a chance to vote.
Right.
The other thing is that you can go to any one of those 10. You walk in, they print your ballot for you, and then you put it into the machine just as you would on election day. So we don't pull those results until after. But again, you can see that your ballot gets counted. It would be just like if you go in on election day.
Let me ask you something. Sometimes we touched this a little bit before. For people who yet I think may not understand the ballot, there is a way that you talked about that people can come in, they can get a sample ballot to have that, and they can bring it in their hands to make sure they're doing the right thing.
Yes. So one, sample ballots are already on our website. So if you go to escambiavotes.gov. We actually have one of the banner ads that scrolls across the top.
Right.
Says check your sample ballot. You can also check to see if you're registered. It's the same site. You put in your name, your birth date. Make sure that you're a human. You're not a computer. You have to go through those questions.
Yes.
But it'll tell you if you're registered. If you have a vote by mail request on file, it'll give you your sample ballot. And then the other thing is for anyone who has not requested a vote by mail ballot, so who hasn't gotten a ballot in the mail, we will send them a sample ballot. And we are anticipating to have those in mailboxes by October 14th, so that would be a week before early voting starts.
Right.
3 weeks before the election, so they have plenty of time to review it. We have 6 amendments, constitutional amendments on there this year. Plus a half-cent school board sales tax to renew that. So it'll give them the opportunity to review it. So they can take that sample ballot, mark it how they want to go in and vote.
Right.
And then they can take it in. When they get their ballot, they can take it
with them. Okay, let me make sure I got the right circle here.
Right. Copy their answers.
Be careful because no erasing, right?
You can't, but if you do make a mistake, you can request a new ballot.
Okay,
so
great.
You can get up to 2 additional ballots. You get a total of 3. So if you make a mistake, you can get another one, and then if you make another mistake, then we'll usually take you to a machine that's more forgiving. Does
that happen sometimes?
It does, and because we want your vote to count, but the statutes say you get a total of 3 ballots, and so you can get assistance from the poll workers. And what we do is we send 2 members of the poll workers from different parties, sort of kind of that checks and balances to make sure that so we've had people where we had to read them the ballot before. We do have a machine for people with disabilities. Anybody can use it really, but it'll have a larger font. It'll if they need it to hear, they can hear the names and have it read to them and then make a selection based on that.
So we're making it accessible for everybody. There won't be any reason why that they cannot come in or mail in or learn what it takes so that they can be heard.
Correct.
Great. Now look, eligibility requirements.
Yes.
Let's make sure about all of these things, like the voters, such as their residency, their age, the identification needs. Let's touch on some of those things so they can make sure,
right,
without a question, if you've moved, what you need to do. If you're planning on moving, what you need to do.
Sure. So we're great. We have a great relationship with the tax collector, and usually when someone goes in and updates their driver's license, we get that information and can update your voter registration, right? So they'll ask you, do you want to update your voter registration? You can. The thing is if you move within the county after that October 7th registration deadline, that's okay. We know people are going to move. The good news is you're already registered. So the deadline to register to vote is October 7th.
Right.
If you move, that's one of the questions we ask you. Do you still live at this address? If you say no, then either maybe you're still in the same precinct or you may have to go somewhere else. So, it's always important to try to get that updated as quickly as you can, and then you can get the correct information as to where your precinct is. Now, if you go to an early vote site, one of those 10 early vote sites, you can go to any one of the 10. So if you walk in and say, hey, I've moved, that's great. They'll update your address, and then they'll print you the correct ballot right there. So you don't have to worry about that. So we make it as easy as we can because we don't want to disenfranchise the vote, right?
Certainly.
Our goal is to make sure that your voice gets heard in any way that is. And so, of course, we have to follow the statutes in doing that. But really, we want to make it as easy as possible for you to get out and vote, and then make sure that voice gets heard.
No doubt about it. So everybody, please, if you've got questions that you feel a little bit you're not so sure about, today is the day that you can call and ask the man who has the answers, Mr. Robert Bender, who is the supervisor of elections right here in Pensacola. So you can do that today by calling 850-432-7768. Do not sit there and go, I think, or maybe. It's time now to make sure.
Yep.
And it's no more and ahs. Okay, you can call us and talk to us. Right. You can even text if you don't want to talk. But sometimes people think, I've had so many people say, oh, sometimes I want to call, but I just don't know what to say. Nobody's going to see you. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
They get a little shy. But I see that now. Let's say now with the voter roll purchase, what am I talking about? Is there plans for the polls to be purged for the voters?
So again, we follow statutes, and so we have certain things. We're not actively doing that right now because you can't do it 90 days before an election. So we had to do it at least once in the year. So we did it immediately after the Triple P, the presidential preference primary in March. We had to start that by April 1st and complete it by May 22nd. And what we do is we look at the national change of address with the United States Postal Service, see their database, and then compare it to ours to see if people have moved. The other thing is like when we send these sample ballots out, as I said, we send one to everyone who has not gotten a vote by mail ballot. If that comes back to us because you've moved, and then that triggers us to start a process of trying to contact the voter to see what's going on.
Okay.
And so we currently, and then the other thing is that if we hadn't, say you haven't gone to vote for a while, or you haven't signed a petition or something like that, we used to send you a letter and say, hey, checking in on you, seeing how you're doing. And if you didn't respond, nothing would happen. You'd still remain an active voter. But in 2023, the law changed a little bit to where if you don't respond with a yes, I'm still here, I'd still want to register to vote, then we can start a process where it moves you to an inactive voter. Now, I want to make sure that an inactive voter is not a unregistered voter. You're still registered to vote, you're just not active.
Okay.
And what happens is that if you don't request a vote by mail ballot, sign a petition, or vote in an election over 2 general election cycles, then you do get removed. So, right. So there is that step. But again, you've missed a couple elections since we've contacted you to say you need to do something in order to remain active.
Absolutely. Everybody, we're talking about, and we are how many days out? We say, Rob, we're like 40 something?
46, I think.
46 days out. Come on, there is no time to play. Let's make sure everything is done and taken care of the way it should be. We're going to be talking with Mr. Robert Bender with other questions that you may have, or some of the things that we just want to talk about to make sure you are up to par on what to do and what not to do, where you should be, where you should not be. All coming up right here on Sunshine's Corner.
Good day, Pensacola. Welcome to a new segment on health and wellness sponsored by Baptist Healthcare in partnership with Sonshine's Corner. Every first Wednesday of the month during Sonshine's telecast, we're going to be bringing you information about health and wellness and ways to make sure we're improving the quality of your health care here in Pensacola. After all, we want to ensure that you're going to the right place at the right time and for the right reason, and that you don't feel alone. Can't wait to see you.
Many who consider facial plastic surgery are concerned their results will look unnatural. But with over 20 years of serving the Pensacola community, his thousands of satisfied patients have made Dr. Derek Jones a trusted reconstructive and facial plastic surgeon known for industry-leading results that look natural. Call 850-484-FACE to schedule a consultation at one of our locations in Pensacola and Gulf Breeze.
I'm Dr. Derek Jones. Trust your face to a facial plastic surgeon.
I vote because my mother voted. She was 40 years old. And I was 20 when she first voted. She said, Mamie Lee, take me to the registration office or wherever I need to go so that I can register to vote. So I vote for that reason, and I want everybody else to vote. Don't just talk, you gotta walk it like you talk it, and when you walk it, you are voting. So vote. I'm Mamie Webb Hickson, Director of the Writing Lab at the University of West Florida. Just vote.
Animal Allies is looking for volunteers, and there are many ways that you can help. From taking care of cats to using your computer and social media skills, any and all assistance is greatly appreciated. We have morning and afternoon shifts every day or help at adoption events. You can even foster a kitty at home. And it counts towards community service hours for bright futures. Find Animal Allies Florida on Facebook and Instagram, or go to aaflorida.org/volunteer.
And welcome back to Sonshine's Corner on this Friday edition. So glad to have Mr. Robert Bender in with me again today, because he is so filled with knowledge, and I tell you, he just shares it with a smile on his face, and that's what I love about it.
Listen, I enjoy what I do, and again, make sure that everything's done right.
It shows, you know,
right?
Because when you enjoy what you're doing, to make sure it's all done right, it's that persona that you get from a person, you know, that is in their hearts to do the right thing. And we were talking about we had already talked about the voter roll purchase. We had already covered that. And I think, we got this little information in that he wanted to ask this question here about top election officials who warns Postal Service of mail ballot issues. Where this bipartisan group of elections officials sounded off an alarm on Wednesday about significant problems in the Postal Service in delivering the mail-out ballots, highlighting previous cases in nearly every state of ballots being delivered well after the election day.
And yes, I would say that's a part of that is true, right? I mean, we have. I had somebody actually email me this morning saying that they just got their ballot from August, received it to vote. Fortunately, they were able to go to the polls on election day, go to their precinct and vote, so their vote wasn't suppressed. And we've gotten return ballots from 2 years ago even. Sometimes, so yes, things do get lost in the mail. That's why I'd say that one, like we made the announcement yesterday that the ballots had gone out, so we're letting people know they need to start looking for them. But we also have a feature on our website to track your vote by mail ballot. So it lets you know when it's been mailed. It also lets you know when it's been received.
Right.
And so the way we say it is that when it's been received and accepted, it will be counted, and it'll be counted before Election Day, because within 30 minutes of those polls closing, I have to release the vote by mail results and the early vote. I think we hit it at about 7:03 on election night in August. And I'm smiling because it's so great when you can get out 60% of the vote for that election 3 minutes after the polls close. This is where I say Florida's doing it right. Right? I mean, when I say Florida's the gold standard, and so and it is, because I can start canvassing these vote by mail ballots ahead of the election day, and then again it allows us to give those results immediately when the polls close. It also allows me to just focus on election day. I mean, I have 80 precincts, 72 locations. There's enough going on election day that I don't need to be bogged down by just starting counting my vote by mail.
And you see, Robin, I want you to understand that I'm going to be a little bit transparent here with the fact that, especially there have been so many things that we've seen in the media whereas when it's come to election season, how there are things that been trying to make sure your vote is suppressed. And that's why I know that there are so many people that are concerned when it comes to the mail-in, however they choose to vote, that their vote is counted because of the fact of things that has happened in the past. And yes, I'm going to reflect and say that it has been a lot that has happened, especially in the Black community.
Yes, ma'am.
That it has been that way to try to suppress our votes.
Yep.
And when we're trying to do the right steps, that's why I want to have the hard conversations, or the conversations that we got to make sure that everything is counted, because everybody, you're important. Everybody, you deserve to be heard. And we stress the fact that we want people to use that mechanism that has been given to our godly rights, that we can be heard. And we want to make sure that all the I's, the T's, the dots, the periods are all been covered, so that we won't have to worry about why it didn't, or when you get to the polls, there are things that people are going to try to do to keep you from voting. You know, we've suffered some things like that.
Yes.
And we want to make sure here, locally, where we are standing in Escambia County, that's not going to be the problem, especially in this general election that's coming up, because you know the hype is already out there.
It is.
That we can be heard.
Yes. So I would say one, again, Florida's leading the way in the sense of when you look at, there's a lot of talk about illegals being allowed to vote, and that so we've had access to the federal database since 2012. I think we're one of 5 states that currently has that. So we're actually teaching all these other states that are going through it now what to do. And we're way ahead of them. That's why we aren't seeing the same issues that you're seeing in Florida that you're seeing in some of these other states. But I'd say that's why when I say we staff our polling locations with members from different parties, right? So again, not only when a voter needs assistance that you can have a member from 2 political parties come together and assist that voter, but as I say, our poll workers, they're not only my eyes and ears as to what's going on, they're your eyes and ears, they're your eyes and ears.
Exactly.
That way when you can say, hey, did this happen? Now there are certainly circumstances where someone gets to the polls. I mean, we had a number of them in August where they were registered one party and they didn't want to be, and they didn't want to vote for that ballot, and we want to look into those things and how that happens. Again, we don't want to do anything. Sometimes it's, again, when you go to get your driver's license, maybe you don't realize that you've changed your party somehow. So it's always important, and that's why we send out the voter registration card. When we get that, we process that, we send it to you. So you want to review that to make sure that information is accurate. You can go to our website and check that "Am I registered?" To check where your precinct is, what your party affiliation. Again, for this election, it won't matter what your party affiliation is. Everybody in your precinct will be getting the same ballot. You can look at that sample ballot and see. So, again, we have, and I know we have the graphic about the types of identification. We have 12 methods of identification that can be used when you get to the polls. Of course, I'd say the easiest is a driver's license. It doesn't have to be a driver's license. Again, military ID, that has a picture, but a lot of the military IDs don't have signatures anymore. So if you combine that with a credit card that has your signature on the back, then those are 2 forms that give you a picture ID and a signature ID. So again, it can be either one of these 12 or a combination of the 12 to get you both of that picture and signature. So again, driver's license is the easiest, but again, it doesn't have to be, and we can pull you up. So I want to make sure I've addressed all your concerns there. Is that
one more thing I want to address? Okay, now I heard you say when you got illegals trying to vote, how is it that they can vote if we've got to have all of this? What do you mean? How can they do that? How can they try to do that if you don't have any of these things that we're talking about? You must have.
Now again, I'd say Florida's unique, right? Some people don't require identification to vote, and that's why this has been around for I think over 20 years, and they've required that. So some of them do get driver's license and other things that have identification on them. So that's one thing too that they could present to the polls. But so what we do, we send it off to the state to verify someone's status. They have a database better than ours. And so once they confirm it, then they send it back to us to process, and that's how a voter gets added. So every voter does that. But again, I just want to make sure is that that's why we have early vote sites throughout the county so that anybody can go in there and vote. On election day, we make sure that we have ample locations, so that one part of the county doesn't have longer lines than the others. Now, some of those, I've heard stories about the Beulah area where you just have thousands and thousands of voters. That it may get a little bit of a line, but again, we try to add poll workers to that location, the number of devices that we're using to check in, so that we can reduce those wait times as much as we can.
Right.
If you look at, we have one location that we call the trifecta. It's actually 3 precincts in one. But it's over in the East Hill area. They go to the not Vickery, but they go to the Bayview Center.
Right.
But all 3 of those precincts combined are still smaller than some of our larger precincts.
Oh, really?
Yes. So again, they vary in size throughout the county.
Right.
And so, but we try to manage that to where there aren't lines and things like that.
I think this year you're gonna have lines everywhere. I mean, I don't know, but I just feel that.
I would say I hope that we do, because that means people are getting out to vote.
Exactly.
But I'm going to do the best I can to limit those. And again, I think that's why we've expanded the number of early voting days to 13, and also expanded the hours to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So, sometimes the 7 a.m. there's a crowd waiting to get in, and by 8, it's cleared out, and so. I think we waited about 10 minutes when we did early vote in August, but there were other times. But again, we went early on a Saturday morning. There were other times you could walk right in, and that was at the busiest location at Asbury Place for the primary. So,
most certainly. And let's remind people of this also now. During the early voting, you can go to any site. I mean, you can go anywhere.
You can go to anyone. Around this area, we have one in our office, at the Supervisor of Elections office downtown. There's the main library. There's a Brownsville Community Center.
Yep.
You have the Extension office up in the north end, the Bellevue Library, the Southwest Library, UWF for students. But again, you don't have to be a student to go there. Anybody up in that area can go. We have one in Century, Molino, and then our new location at Asbury Place.
Every corner of the town.
We try to spread it around and make sure that over those 13 days you'll drive by a place that's probably an early vote location.
No doubt.
And that's usually what happens at the Asburys. They're driving 9th Avenue and they see all the signs along the side of the road, and they, I need to go vote, and they pull in and vote. And so again, if you've gotten a vote by mail ballot, we have those secure intake stations that you can return that vote by mail ballot to the early vote location and drop it in the secure box.
Right.
And so again, that would be knowing that you're not relying on the United States Postal Service to get it to us. But let's talk about that. So I talked about
I tell you what, hold that right there. We're going to talk. Hold that thought right there. We're going to continue this conversation. We got to go take a break. But I want you to keep this in mind as well. I want everybody who's watching, who's viewing this show today, to tell somebody else, to tell somebody. You need to get all this information. And if you've got a question, do not fear asking that question, please, because we got to turn out numbers. Stay close. We're going to be right back with more information right here, Sonshine's Corner.
You finally found the perfect car in racing blue. You even got them to throw in the LED fog lights for free. Auto Owners insures your car because some people never learn to parallel park. That's simple human sense.
Ask the Messick Insurance Agency in Pensacola if auto owners make sense for you.
Keep going. More. No, stop!
I am going to vote. I vote because I want my voice heard. For many years, people like me were silenced. Women were silenced. So I vote to make sure that my voice will be heard. I'm Dr. Yvonne Capehart, and I encourage you to just vote.
Watch a new episode of Crime Stoppers Wanted Fugitives every Friday at 6 p.m., hosted by Sergeant Melanie Peterson and David Craig. Your tips may be eligible for a cash reward, featuring items about officer training, various aspects of police work, and crime prevention information. You'll hear about upcoming family-friendly engagement events as well. Don't miss Crime Stoppers Wanted Fugitives every Friday at 6 p.m.
So much. Fostering a pet for a friend or neighbor can keep families together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Well, I think it's all about local, and I'm a big believer in local. So I think anytime you can carry a message out locally, it's important. And I think it's anytime the person that delivers the service can also deliver the message, which is unusual. You have the people that actually deliver the project doing the talking, and I think that's a huge difference, and really makes a huge value difference for the consumer. So I'm really just so grateful that we have this local opportunity with Blab TV. My name is Quint Studer, and I am Blab TV.
And welcome back to this Friday edition of Sunshine's Corner, where we are keeping you informed. But we've got 40 some odd days before election is here. I'll be so glad when we can talk on November the 6th.
Your birthday.
My birthday.
Your birthday.
I'll be so glad when we can talk on November 6th. I can't wait to see. But there were some things that you want to cover. Right. And I want to, because I said, hold that thought right there. But let's keep going, because there's so much information. Even when we're talking afterwards, there's so many things that we need to share that you need to be aware of.
Sure. One thing we highlight is the ability to track your ballot when you do the vote by mail.
Right.
It's through our website. So one, it lets you know when it's been mailed. And then two, then you know when you get it, and then you know when you've mailed it back. But then you can check to see if it's been received. And what we have, I've just changed this. It was right before the August primary. I put it to received and accepted, to let you know that we've accepted it. If it's not, it'll say that there's an error. And hopefully we've already contacted you at that point, because as soon as we realize that, we're able to reach out to the voter and say either you forgot to sign it, or your signature doesn't match, and we have a process that the voter can go through to cure their affidavit, cure their ballot, and that way it gets counted. And so it's great to have that ability, because we have not always had that.
Right.
And so we contact the voter. So that is, we do ask for the voter's phone number and email address on the envelope.
Okay.
And that is strictly so that if we get the vote by mail ballot back and there is an issue with it, before we open it, we can contact them. We have that information right there. It doesn't go into their file. We don't collect it and put it in their record. It is just so that we can contact the voter if there's an issue. If not, sometimes we do have trouble getting in touch with the voter. And that has we would have to receive that by 5 p.m. 2 days after the election. So
right.
Thursday at 5 p.m. is when we'd have to get that paperwork saying that yes, that was my ballot and I want it counted. But that's a great thing that we have, is this ballot tracks. But the thing is say you've mailed in your ballot and it's getting close to election day and we haven't received it yet and you don't know what to do. Because of the voter registration database that we have and how it's updated in real time, you can go to an early vote site or go to your precinct on election day, and when you check in and get a ballot, it shows in the system that you've voted. So if by some chance that vote by mail does come in before 7 p.m. on election day, and I want to highlight that, is that we have to receive ballots by 7 p.m. on election day. There is the exception for the military overseas voters. They have an additional 10 days for federal law. But it has to be postmarked by election day. So I don't want to focus too much on that, but I just want to say that those military overseas voters have. But for everyone else, if I don't have the ballot in my hands by 7 p.m. on election night, it doesn't get counted. So we go at 5 p.m. to the post office to make one last sweep to see if we can get anybody. In March, we had a lady from the Warrington post office bring some by on her way home. Which again, the post office, and I know they get a little bit like the news story we just saw. They want to get a little bit of a bad rap. They know how important getting these ballots are, and so they do their best effort to get all of them to us. And so again, that's why we go in, right as they're closing on election night, make sure that we have them. We have those. We don't have any secure intake stations on election day, except at the Supervisor of Elections office for the people to drop them off. But again, so if you get there and you're afraid that your ballot won't be received by 7 p.m., you can go vote. You can go vote, and you'd say, hey, I don't have that ballot. I mailed it in. It hasn't been received yet. So then if we do get it in and we go to log it in, we're going to see that you voted, and we won't count that.
Okay,
so we'll
there's
just
no
set it
chance
off.
you're going to do it twice.
There's no chance you're going to do it twice. And so that's, again, that's the great thing about the voter registration that we have, and that it updates in real time. Just like if you go do an early vote at one location, you're not going to be able to go down the street to another location and do it again because your voter record's already been shown that you voted.
Let me ask you this, not cutting you off, Robert.
Yep.
Okay, when you say that you can track your vote, I want to go a little bit to some of the elderly people.
Sure.
I mean, you tell them about an email. What is that, baby? I mean, so how is it that those people that in that age group can make sure that their vote's been counted?
They can always give our office a call to make sure. Our office number is 850-595-3900. And they could call and say, hey, I've mailed my ballot. I just want to make sure you received it. We'll pull up their voter record and can see if it's been received or not, or and if there is an issue with the signature or not. Now, as I say, sometimes we'll get a ballot comes back and it's the envelope's ripped and there's tape all over it. And so, we want
So that's not going to be counted?
Well, it might be. So, for instance, we'll call the voter and ask them. It may be that the voter did it. I think we actually had a voter rip theirs in half and then taped it all back together. and again, we played a little investigator on the canvassing board. Is that we peeled back the tape and the postmark came off with the tape. So that told me that the tape was there before it was stamped by the post office.
Okay.
So maybe that was the voter that did it. Again, we tried contacting the voter. And weren't able to get in touch, but we decided to accept that ballot. And so things like that is why we may need to contact a voter when we get it. And so we're going to give them the opportunity of, hey, this has been ripped. Do you want a new ballot? Do you want us to not open this? Do you want us to go ahead and open it and count it? Because once we open it and take it out of the envelope, I don't know whose ballot this is, right? The envelope goes one way, the ballot goes the other way, and there's no way to match them up. And again, the other thing is that unless it's accepted, I don't open that envelope. So I will never know how that person voted or what they do because if it's not accepted, I don't open it.
So therefore, when I keep harping on the fact that there's a lot of our elderly people who are they're so adamant, I want to vote, because you get more of them than the younger people who make sure that they want to vote.
We do.
I mean, because they know the importance of being heard. So my question is, how can we? And I'm talking to our viewers now. With the elderly people that may be in your church, in your neighborhood, could be your mom, your grandma, whatever. But we've got to make sure that we do this. I want everybody to do as well as they possibly can. With the early voting or with the mail-ins, get that done early. Let's not just wait till the last minute.
Right.
Let's do it early enough so if there is an issue that we can focus on that issue to get it corrected, because it's so important that everybody is heard. And I see, even sometimes when I go out to the poll sites, when I can see what makes me smile, when I can see an older person, they're standing there. They maybe have a walker right there in front of them, or a cane, or whatever the case may be, but they're standing there, so that's important to them to be heard. And with the things that we've seen happen in the past, and I thank you for covering it like you did, we want to make sure that does not happen again, so that our important voice can be heard.
Yes.
And I thank you for covering that and taking care of that for me.
Again, it's I work with both parties here, and usually if I do something for one party, I'll call the other one and say,
that's fair. That's fair.
This is what we've done, and here's your packet to have the same thing.
Right.
I've talked to both of the chairmen of the parties the last few weeks. Asked them how the primary went for them, if they thought there was anything that we needed to change. We work with them on having poll watchers.
And a poll watcher does?
A poll watcher is someone who's appointed by the party or a candidate or an issue that is able to go into the polling location, either the early vote side or the precinct, and observe and see what's going on.
Exactly what it says, a poll watcher.
Right.
Okay.
And so, they we don't want them to get involved in the process necessarily. If they feel that there's an issue going on, they can go to the clerk, is the person who oversees is the poll worker that oversees that location, and they can raise the issue with them.
Right.
But again, it's just it's a little bit of our transparency of allowing people that aren't in there to vote
right.
to go in and watch and make sure that we're doing the right thing and that
well, that's an
that things
accessibility
are right.
I think that everybody should have when it comes down to that. And the fact of it is, with the fact that this election is coming up, and I keep saying that's so important because that's the vibe we've been getting, that you hear in the street, how important it is, and what we're trying to really educate everybody on everything so that we can avoid anything that will cause you not to vote.
Correct. Right. Again, we would love to see 100% turnout. I know that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the highest we've ever seen in Escambia County is about 80.
Mm-hmm. Make it 90 this year.
Okay. Let's do it. The last couple of years it's been in those mid 70s. I mean, we hit 80% in President Clinton's first election and President Obama's first election. Other than that, it's about 73 to 75%. So if we had a high turnout, that would be great.
Exactly. Well, I feel like we are. I don't know why, but I feel it in my bones.
I think so.
That we're going to have a great turnout this year, because I think the fact of it is, and I know you work with a lot of people, you see this, I think that even the United States, everybody in our country is just tired. I think they are so ready for all the rhetoric to stop. I think that they're just ready to see things come together and work for the better of the entire country, not for just part of the country, but for everybody, because we all deserve that, to have that comfortability in our neighborhoods.
Well, and also that's one of the reasons why I wanted to take this position, was because although the national, the president gets a lot of the attention in this election cycle, it's just as important on who you're voting for your city council member, your county commissioner, your state rep. Again, there are 6 issues on the ballot that you want to familiarize yourself with, and how that's going to change the Constitution. Everything from abortion and marijuana to the right to fish and a homestead tax.
Exactly.
So, and then there is that half-cent sales tax for the school board. It's a re-upping for another 10 years. That's why we have a 7.5-cent sales tax. That if you want to continue to support the schools that way. So that is another question on there. That's the very last question on the back page. We have on that front page, we have it at the bottom of the page to vote both sides of the ballot.
Right.
We have it underneath the last contest on that front page.
Right.
Vote both sides of the ballot. And you'd be surprised how many people don't. And again, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the voters are aware that there is a backside, and vote both sides. But,
absolutely.
And again, in this presidential election cycle, you will see a lot of people that will come in, just vote for the president, the U.S. senator, and the congressman, and
that's it.
And turn in their ballot. So.
These amendments are too important, people.
You've made the effort to come out. You might as well take full advantage of it.
That's right. So educate yourself and get that sample ballot and learn how. Just go down and what you want to do. Make sure you educate yourself and bring that with you. You don't have to worry about being in there forever.
It is.
Well, we're going to hold on a second. I think keep telling it. See, we get to going, Robert. We don't want to stop. But listen, we're going to come back and talk more with Mr. Robert Bender, Supervisor of Elections right here in Escambia County. Stay close right here to Sunshine's Corner on Blab TV.
I had a lot of family growing up that voting was the key factor to life and what you want in your future. I have 4 children and I want to make a difference for them in our future. We gotta vote. You gotta have a voice. I'm Samantha Williams and I encourage you to just vote.
Lloyd's Glass and Correct Calibration Services is a one-stop shop because you can come get your windshield replaced, and right behind that replacement at the same appointment, we will calibrate the cameras, and when you leave, everything's ready to go. There's no need to go to the dealership, or there's no need to come back for another appointment. We just take care of it at one time. We put the customer first, and we strive to do everything right the first time.
Lloyd's Glass and Correct Calibration Services, your one-stop shop with same-day service.
Gilmarine, your one-stop shop for all your boating needs. We offer a vast selection of parts, accessories, and electronics. Discover our range of used boats in every size, shape, and brand, all ready to get you on the water today. and we provide expert advice and top-notch customer service to ensure you have the best boating experience. We service all outboard, inboards, stern drives, jet drives, and personal watercraft. Our certified staff will get you back on the water. Visit Gill Marine at 3541 West Fairfield Drive, Pensacola.
My father told us he paid the cost to be the boss, which meant whatever he told you to do, you better do. So we were told you must vote. He would sit us down at a round table and go over the reasons why you needed to vote, why it was so important, that he fought for us to make sure that we could vote and that we were to fight for ourselves and for his grandchildren. My name is Jill Lewis-Daggs. I am the state committee woman for Okaloosa County, and I'm here to tell you, just vote.
And welcome back to Sunshine's Corner, this Friday edition. I tell you, when you're getting a lot of information, when it's all the great stuff, the clock seems to tick so fast. I can't believe it, because I mean, you and I said we had a lot to talk about, but my goodness. Now, before we were going to break, there was a point you wanted to make. I said, hold it right there, Robert. So let's go back to that point so we get everybody.
I'm trying to remember now, because we started talking about something else in the break.
You know, what were we saying?
No, it'll be fine. It'll come up. But let's talk about what is coming up with the election. So again, transparency and how open we are with the elections is very important. So October 3rd at 9:15 at our election warehouse over on Navy Boulevard, 3201 West Navy Boulevard, we have our logic and accuracy test. So I actually talked to WAR yesterday. They're going to be there. And what we do is we test the ballots and the machines to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to. As I say, we make sure that a vote for candidate A is read as a vote for candidate A. And so we do a sampling of the equipment. We go through the whole process of a ballot being created by that machine for voters with disabilities. We do one of those. We make sure that the tabulator reads it. We make sure that our vote by mail machines work, and then we also make sure that our audit machine works, and that all the results come together, and that we fill out the ballots so we know how many votes we're looking for each candidate.
I understand.
And so we make sure that they match.
Right.
And so one of the things that we added this year was an automated audit. And what we do is we take 100% of the ballots and run them through this auditing machine. It is separate from the tabulators that you see in the precincts.
Right.
And then we compare the results to make sure they match. So again, when we used to do an audit, we would do a hand recount of one race from two precincts and make sure that those match. In August, we compared 100% of the precincts, 100% of the races to make sure that they matched.
Wow.
And so, as we said, there were a handful of discrepancies, but we all know what those were. And again, we report all of this to the state, so I'm happy to talk about it because I want to be transparent with everybody.
Please.
Was that we had one precinct where the ballot got jammed, but it had already been tabulated. They didn't realize it, so they ran it through a second time.
Okay.
Again, it was.
Does that happen anytime often that the ballots may get jammed in that?
With our new machines, it's not as often.
Okay.
But sometimes it does get caught on something, and so when we went through the audit, of course, we didn't run it through a ballot twice. So, but we report it. There were 5 instances where the tabulator did not assign the vote to a candidate. But when the canvassing board reviewed it, we could say that was a vote for a certain candidate, and we assigned that vote to that person. And it might be just that somebody missed the bubble, but they actually had some of it go through, and you could tell that it's voter intent, right? And so we do that. But then we also had one vote where the voter had crossed through a candidate's name, and one of the cross marks ended up through the ballot, and so we could in the bubble. And so we could tell that they weren't trying to vote for that candidate. They were scratching through his name. And so we said that wasn't a valid vote.
Right.
And again, we had 6 of those out of all the votes that were cast out of every race. And so very, very small number that we had. But the ability to do that. So we have our logic and accuracy tests coming up. It's open to the public, as are all of our meetings. We're getting ready to publish next week that schedule when we will open those vote by mail ballots. We have a observation room where you can watch the ballots come in.
That's what we're talking about.
and then get opened, and then the poll workers will lay the ballots out, and then we have a whole process to make sure that that we don't lose a ballot. I mean, we're in a
Absolutely.
small
That's
room.
really
I mean, you can
important.
see what's
Right.
going on. But as I said, though, that sometimes somebody will mail us their envelope and they forget to include their ballot. We had it happen a couple times in August. But we keep track of that. We do it in batches, and so we try to make those batches about 250. And so then as we get through those, then we can say, okay, there was 249. But we go through and we make sure that if we had 250 envelopes, that we had 250 ballots and things like that.
How do you handle this now? I want to move on to another part because I just know without a doubt that these polls are going to be so filled this year.
Yes.
I just know it. Security.
Yes, perfect. So one, we start with, we have two forms of security. We have cybersecurity, which we're constantly maintaining, and then you have physical security.
Right.
And that is honestly, that's where my poll workers come in a little bit.
Okay.
As we talk about, and I've talked with some of my colleagues about people putting extra ballots in the tabulator. We have a poll worker standing right there. A poll worker's not going to stand there and let you just add ballots to a machine.
Slide 2?
Slide 2. Now here's the thing, if you try to slide 2 in at the same time, it's going to kick it out. It's not going to accept it. The other security feature that we've added this year is that for vote by mail ballots, we've added a V at the top. So if you took that into a precinct or an early vote site and tried to scan that ballot through, it won't accept it. And so it'll only accept the ballots that are there. And so just again, extra layer of security that somebody maybe they got that vote by mail, and when they go to get the additional ballot, they say, no, I don't know where it is, I don't know what happened to it, and then try to slide to. Now the other thing is we have redundant efforts on top of redundant effort. I mean, our contingency plans have contingency plans. We double check everything 2 or 3 different ways. So we know how many people checked in, we know how many ballots went out, and we know how many ballots got counted, and we make sure that all those numbers match. And if they don't, we're going to investigate why.
Okay.
Because if we're 1 vote off, we're going to investigate that and see why we're one vote off.
I got you.
And so, and that's what we do. That's what we spend doing weeks after the election. And so we look into that. We had, like I said, we had a number of voters that checked in, and then realized that because it's a closed primary, they didn't want to vote that ballot, and so they just were kind of fling their ballot at us and walk out the door, and we call it a fleeing voter.
Fleeing voters.
And so that ballot doesn't get counted, but we make a note. I mean, we keep notes throughout the day as to things that happen, so we can go back and look at those. And so again, if somehow we ended up with more ballots in the tabulator than we had people check in, we're going to start looking into it and see why that happened. And like I said, we had the one that we ran through twice because it had gotten stuck,
Right.
and the poll worker didn't realize it had already been tabulated when they went to do it again.
I got you.
And so that may be again, we were 1 ballot off, and then we went to see why. So so those are all the things that we do and how we verify and check everything. And that's the same thing with election night. So in terms of security, we tell the machine to modem the results to our warehouse. That is really they're unofficial. That is a convenience factor to allow us to get those results out to the public as quickly as possible. So as I said, about 7:03 on election night, we had all those early vote and vote by mail results out. I'd say by 7:45, we had 77 of our 80 precincts with the results reporting because they modem to us. We still take the thumb drive from the machine. We upload that to our results. As I said, we still have the paper ballots. We run them through the audit machine to make sure that everything works out. So we're not those tabulators that you put your ballot into. They're only connected to power. They're not connected to the internet. And again, it's when we tell them to send us the results over a secure transmission, that's when it happens. I think another thing is we had a lady that had voted in another state before, and she loved the fact that she got to put her ballot into the tabulator.
Right.
It wasn't like I hand it to someone else. And again, we want to focus on that voter anonymity, right? And that we really don't want to touch the ballot after we hand it to the voter, and especially if they've started marking it. So to see that voter put it through the tabulator, and you see the little hamster wheel run, and then it says your vote's been counted, and you see the number on the screen go up by 1 to show that it has been counted. That's a great thing, and that's why we may try to keep you at the machine for a second, so that we wait for that to happen, and then we can say, okay, your vote's been counted, you can
Right.
go. And but then at the same time, if there is an issue, if it can't read a race because you've put in an extra stray mark, or you made a mistake and you've overvoted,
That's when you come back and do it again.
then it kicks it out and says, let's try again. I was visiting some precincts on election day in August, and one lady went from getting the ballot and went straight to the machine and forgot to put any marks on it. And she put it in, and it said, this is a blank ballot. Is this what you want to do? She goes, no, I want to vote. And so there are things like that
Right.
if there's an issue with it, it'll let you know right then if it can't be voted.
Well, I tell you, Robert, I can't believe this. He's telling me what we got 2 minutes. But listen to this. Everybody, 850-595-3900.
Yes.
Any questions? Any concerns? Make sure you contact the Office of the Supervisor of Elections. On election day, make sure you get out and vote. But we'll have you back before that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, we're
Sounds
going to
good.
have you back because the closer we get, I think we're going to
I may not look as joyful and relaxed at that point, but
Look, we're going to do that in October because I know by then it's going to be some things out there flying. But the fact of it is, I think most of the questions that we asked today that we covered are things that are prevalent to you, so you can make sure that your vote will be counted because you are special. You deserve everything that's afforded us. So please do not overlook this opportunity so you can cast your vote. For the fine work that Mr. Bentley's doing with all the fine people he sent over to me yesterday that I could talk to and all that good stuff, and that symposium you had, I commend you on doing that.
I'm glad so it was a conference of other commissioners from around the state that we were able to get to Escambia County and show them some innovative things that we're doing in Escambia County. So it's great to have everybody here and show off how great we really are.
You got that right. We showed them off first.
So real quick, just want to remind everybody, October 7th is the deadline to register. You need to get that registration in if you haven't done so already. And again, you can go to our website to check your status if you're registered to vote, or if you have a vote by mail request on file. So It's not too late to do either one of those.
Absolutely. Please, everybody, thank you, Mr. Bender, for taking the time to come in with us to share that with us. Listen, remember, as I part and leave you every day, never lose your focus. Always remember to keep God first in whatever you do. Handle it like that, you'll be a total success. Until Monday morning, know that I love you with a perfect kind of love. Keep shining while I'm gone. Have a great weekend.
Sunshine's Corner, being brought to you by Quint and Richie Studer.